All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. My name's Austin. This is the price of Bitcoin year to date. And in today's video, in less than 10 minutes, I want to have a realistic discussion on are institutional investors actually buying Bitcoin? Is Wall Street actually buying Bitcoin? To do this, I want to share with you some perspective from a man who knows the answer to these questions, Nelson Minier, who is the head of over-the-counter sales and trading at Kraken. Now, if you or anybody wants to participate and buy your Bitcoin off an OTC exchange, you'll need at least $100,000 minimum, and that's it. I'm going to link this entire episode down below in the description. I highly recommend you subscribe. I think you'll find value. But let's go to the first clip. Over the last few years, has Kraken seen the type of OTC institutional client change? And are OTC investors choosing Kraken, or are they choosing something else?
Has the kind of customer changed over the years?
You know, one of the things where I really thought was going to happen, and maybe because I came from the institutional world, I thought we were going to see a lot more institutions come in and buy through us, and that hasn't been the case. And I think I just was made a mistake in the sense that these guys are going to face like the Baxter of the worlds, the Fidelities of the worlds, and where they already have channels set up. And once they've gone through the process of understanding Bitcoin, it's not like they're going to be able to put it on their Trezor and say, yeah, I'm going to own this for this hedge fund and put it on this Trezor and do it. And no hedge fund is set up to take up assets like that and have it, lying around, have, a couple thousand Bitcoins lying around our Trezor. Say, yeah, that's our position, and we're going to do it like that. So I underestimated that. I even hired a guy that was a friend of mine from Wall Street that, knew everybody. Like he was, spent a long time on Wall Street, had very high positions. And, he had a hard time knocking on doors and trying to get people to come in, just because they're not ready already. But also it's the way the custody issues and things like that are going to happen. So for us, it's much more of a retail business, but like wealthy clients, OGs that been around, trading around. So we got guys that punt around.
Wow. I like that honesty. So according to the head of OTC sales and trading at Kraken, its rich retail investors are the primary clientele for Kraken, at least. And keep in mind, Nelson, in the beginning of this podcast, he mentions that he worked 20 plus years in traditional finance at Bear Stearns. So he definitely has some perspective when it comes to traditional finance. And from his perspective, he sees Wall Street not really choosing the Coinbases or the Krakens. They're going to choose more the Bakkts and the Fidelities. But hey, let's just get to the point, because Nelson admits that Wall Street, more than ever, is talking about Bitcoin. But what's it going to take? What's it actually going to take for Wall Street to jump in? Listen how he describes this isn't a short-term thing. This is a multi-decade long thing.
But why do you think there hasn't been this explosion of adoption by Wall Street? Why is it that why are they still, I know back volumes are growing. I know there is the very slow institutional interest, but really there hasn't been the expected explosion. Why?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I racked my brains with when I was on Wall Street. I was like, guys, you guys are missing it. And I was on the inside and I couldn't get it. The thing is, though, that this is still, they talk about intrinsic value and all. I was with one of the biggest portfolio managers on the planet playing golf, and I was trying to convince him on it, and he couldn't get over the fact that the intrinsic value. Yeah. He couldn't get over that fact. But then when I step back and look at it, right, if you're one of these portfolio managers, you really, put in this fake internet money in a portfolio. You think about it. You spent. You probably got your CFA, you might have got your MBA, you probably worked as an analyst for decades before getting that sweet gig, becoming a portfolio manager, thing that you wanted. Now you got this big place up in Westchester, people listen to you when you talk, you got all this respect, and you've earned it, there's no doubt. In order to get that seat, you worked your ass off.
Yeah.
But are you gonna risk, you're gonna roll the dice with this thing that, you can probably become the laughing stock? I felt it. People thought I was kooky going into this thing. Friends of mine are like, hey, Nully, you sure you know what you're doing? You're not going to put this in a portfolio that can possibly go to zero. And you're not going to risk your reputation by doing it. It takes a maverick It takes somebody that thinks out of the box to do it.
Even the 1%, put 1% of the portfolio in, it's still risky.
Because these guys are all fighting for a couple basis points, right? And not only that, but it's a reputation. Like, because can you imagine Bitcoin goes to zero? How many people are like, wait a minute, you put my pension money into Bitcoin and you lost me 1% because you put this thing in this crazy internet money? I'm out. I'm taking my money out.
How does that get bridged, though?
It's the young people that are bringing it up. It's those people that like anti-state and banks that were spent a year at Zuccotti Park. Now all of a sudden starting to get influence in the world. And it's also the quants, the techs that understand the math, understand what this is. Those are the guys, when they start getting influence and power, those are the guys that are going to bring it in because they understand it. Right. And they get it. Because it's not, you take the average age of the person in Kraken. It's decades younger than the average person at a PIMCO or an Alliance or at a Fidelity, like these big portfolio managers. It's a skepticism of banks, of the state, and an embrace of technology. That combination is what's going to bring it, and people are going to start saying, wait a minute, you got an uncorrelated asset, ridiculous historical returns, right? That's scarce. You can't make any more of it. Wow, you got to slap a couple of percentage points in the portfolio on this thing. And those are the guys that are going to bring it to those, but it's going to take time.
Okay, so first off, great perspective. Now, if you hold Bitcoin today, right now, I have breaking news coming out of Australia and news coming out of the HSBC Bank. So watch today's entire video, a lot of news for you. But if this realistic look that it's going to take decades and decades for Wall Street to really enter Bitcoin, if that's too real for you, and yeah, this is just one man's opinion, but what it comes down to is the more and more he deals with OTC buyers, just how much more certain is he about Bitcoin?
It's like the longer you're in this thing, the more certain you become that it's going to be something you don't worry about what the next 5% are doing. Yeah. You just don't. And people, like, we have like things that internally where we get paid in Bitcoin, and people just stack their sats nice and easy. They keep working hard. They keep, we're all working to bring this thing to the masses. And our time preferences have changed, so we're willing to wait. We know what's going to happen.
That's what Andreas says.
What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments your opinion. Whenever I find little gems like this, I'm always going to bring it to you. So hit subscribe, hit like if you want to support me, help the channel grow. And also subscribe to great podcasts. Links down below in the description. Next piece of news, or first piece of news, depending on how you look at it, but a huge red flag coming out of traditional finance, not Bitcoin, but traditional finance. Australia's oldest bank is involved in a massive money laundering scandal. Check this out. Australia's oldest bank, Westpac, is under fire. The Sydney-based financial services provider, established in 1817 and one of the country's big four banks, is accused of violating two things: anti-money laundering and also counter-terrorism financing. This is huge corruption. If you're listening today from Australia, comment down below. Back this news story's up. I'm sure you've heard about it in your country. But the crazy thing to me is Westpac is accused of violating these anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws on more than 23 million occasions. Bitcoin fixes this. And pretty much an admission of guilt, I think. This is a quote from the CEO. As CEO, I accept that I am ultimately accountable for everything that happens at the bank. It is clear that we have fallen well short of what the community expects of us, and we expect of ourselves. So, there's that. Hey, by the way, huge appreciation from you reaching out in the video I made 2 days ago. I want to update you on our YouTube situation at the end of this video, because I know you mainly care about the news. Last piece of news before I go enjoy my Thanksgiving. If you're in the States, we're all off today, giving thanks. But HSBC, the bank, is next year to track over $20 billion in assets on blockchain next year. So again, all this news about blockchain does nothing for the Bitcoin price, but in my opinion, I think it does a lot for Bitcoin awareness, which is something, I'll take it. According to the report, HSBC intends to move its current paper-based records onto its digital vault platform by next year, March of 2020. And why are they doing this? Why are they putting money on the blockchain? Well, it's to allow investors to track securities in real time. The UK-based bank will specifically digitalize its private placement records, allowing investors to quickly check its holdings. So really, they want to save their clients time. The records are currently held in paper-based records, according to the report, and it can be tricky and time-consuming to access them in present form. So that's the news. When we get more, I'll let you know. I'll make a video. And just to quickly update you on our YouTube situation, we have the appeal submitted, still waiting for a response. So we'll see. I have high hopes. All right, guys, happy Thanksgiving. I am thankful for you and Bitcoin and a lot of things, but like always, I'll see you tomorrow.